Hello everybody, my name is Tucker, and welcome back to our Russian Fishing 4 float fishing character. Today we are over at Mosquito. I saw a post for Ide here, and that's one of the two fish that I have not closed here on the trophy list, so I figured I'd give it a try. So we're over here at 70.90. We've got big hooks, we've got corn, and we're going to see what we can get. I've been standing here for about 3 hours in game, so I've been here for a bit. And had not seen any eye, or saw one eyed go in the chat. And then right as I started, both my rods started jingle jangling. So I do have an 18 clip, basically almost a full cast on my clip. And we'll see if we can't get ourselves a big eyed today. I'll try and do kind of a review similar to what I did over on the spin character as well too of my gear. That was a good question, and I haven't done an overview of that in a while, so we'll hopefully get into that as well today. I apologize if there's any fan or wind noises. I do have a fan blowing on me. It was another very, very hot day. Tomorrow is actually supposed to be even worse. We're supposed to be 105 with 90% humidity, so it is not going to be a fun day tomorrow. But today it's 93 right now at 7 o'clock at night. And 60 or 95% humidity. It's not fun. The four-legged thing did want to go for a WALK, and I am worn out and still drenched in sweat from that an hour later. So, as far as the equipment I have on the float character, we'll start off with what we've got out right now. The two bottom rods I have are the standard starter kit from the tackle store, and it's probably one of the first things I would recommend buying if you're starting out the game, no matter what you're really doing, unless you're going to be 100% spin or float fishing. I mean, even then, float fishers can benefit from having bottom rod fishing because the marker rod is a skill that you get from bottom rod fishing, as well as also spot rods. And I know I haven't talked about spot rods much. They are used for casting ground bait out a long ways. So both of those are very high level bottom rod fishing. So spot rods is rocket feeder. You need 80% for that. Marker rod is also 80. Marker you can use to see how deep it is at any given point in the lake. And you also can tell what the bottom of the river is like. So standard starter kit, I do upgrade and do highly recommend it, especially as soon as you can afford it, to upgrade the the friction brake, not fishing brake, to the 5.4 kilo. It's fairly cheap and gives you an extra kilo, which is about a 20% increase. I think they start off at 4.5. The upgrade gets you to 5.4. So I've done that on both of these rods. And then I've kind of bought new floats, so you do get the feeder cages when you buy that. So you get, actually no, you don't get the feeder cages, you get the pearl sinkers when you buy it. You have to buy the cages separately. And I would do that first thing, whether you're going to be float fishing, spin fishing, or focusing on bottom rod fishing. I would buy 2 or 3 of these as soon as you can. The way I like to fish is I like to have whatever my main rod is and 2 bottom rods out at all times, unless I'm in a boat. Then I'll usually have the 3 spin rods. Sometimes I'll do 2 float rods depending on what's going on. If I'm in a river or a moving water body, I will tend to only do 1. If I'm in a lake like Bear or Mosquito or Oldberg or Amber, I'll tend to potentially do 2 or even 3 floats. But I kind of look at trying to have 2 of every type of rod that you're going to use. So bought those early on. Since this character was focused on float rod, at least when I started, you also got this telestick and this spin rod. I think it's still the same now. They have redone the starting experience since I started this character. I think you still get those two rods, and they're both good starter rods. This is a solid telestick to start with, and this is a decent spin rod to start with as well too. And the reason I keep switching back is A, you can't see when your float goes down when you're in inventory, and B, you won't even hear the jingle jangles of your rods when you're in here. The next things I tend to aim for, since I was going float fishing, I did buy the comfort telescopic stick here. I would probably skip that if you are just playing the game and not focusing on float fishing. I would get a third bottom rod instead, personally. But that's just the way I would do it. But I did buy that. Then the next step for float fishing, especially, is upgrading to the walrus sticks. So I think these are the Start Plus, if I remember correctly, and they're pretty reasonably priced. You get everything you need to start float fishing, and those are a 7 kilogram reel or rod. So definitely pretty capable rod for most of Oldberg, except for carp fishing at Oldberg, and then everything here, everything over at Winding, most of Oldberg, things like that. And even these starter rods, you can go bream fishing very successfully at Oldberg and make 400 silver an hour with 3 of these rods. So just kind of keep that in mind, how useful these rods are for their price. I think they're 150 if I remember correctly. So you can very easily pay them off. Another small eye there, but it's a marker. Gets me up to 66.1%. I think I can cast these out about 22 meters, so that's why I basically launch it out as far as I possibly can. The other thing, and again, I bought 2 walrus sticks because the way I see it, you always want to have 2 of any type of, at least 2 of any type of rod, especially as you get later on in the game. It just makes sense to be able to support having 2 of every type of rod. I did buy on this account, especially since I'm doing a lot of float fishing, I did buy these 2 ultralight rods. They were fairly cheap, and they gave you 100% bonus to XP, but keep in mind they are very small. They are 2.6 kilograms, and I've got 2.5 kilo fluorocarbon line on them. So, and the fish can pull more than their weight. So just like anything, they can swim away from you and pull harder than they actually weigh. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that 2.5 kilo rod really can only catch about a 1 to 1.5 kilo fish. So while they're good for things like fishing over at Donitz, they're great for fishing bleak, for rough fishing, that type of thing. But when you're getting into carp, they're probably pushing it. And then my most recent purchase, as far as telesticks go, are the Silverfish Falcons. These are some of the biggest rods in the game. They support 21.8 kilos. I've got 19 kilo line on it right now just because I couldn't find anything better at the time. And since I tend to use these rods for true float fishing, I tend to use fluorocarbon on these rods because they are kind of invisible line. So when we're getting into big fish, they are not quite as cautious, so they don't care as much as being able to see the line. But that's my personal opinion, is if you are float fishing, it is best to use fluorocarbon line and no leader. Gives the bait kind of the most realistic view. I've never used a leader on a float rod except for when I'm actually carp fishing. So when you get into carp fishing, you will have your feeder leader on. Most people are using braided or mono leaders now because it gives the fish kind of the most realistic view. So here is kind of your standard pop-up rig, or an option for pop-up rig for float. So you'll have your float. The sinkers, it automatically applies them. You get those when you buy the first kit. I would definitely buy the kits, and I can show you those in the tackle store here in a second. I'm going to recast this because the wind has blown it quite a bit. I'm actually going to go a little deeper because I think I can. Go down to 1.5. Yeah, 1.5 is too deep. I'll have to recast that one here in a second. You can tell it's too deep because it's sitting poked up like that. I may go down. That looks like more than 10 centimeters to me. I may go down to 1.25. So small gibble there. But it was a marker, so I'll take it. The spot here I did see used PVA, which is 100% ground bait, 100% bottom rod. So we are nowhere near that on this character. All right, that's sitting pretty good. So I'll go ahead and put the rod down. And then the other things I bought on this account are bolo rods or Bolognese rods. Excuse me. I did get 2 different ones. I've got I think it's a 6 kilo one that I barely ever used, to be honest with you. This was a little bit of a mistake purchase. Then I've got this one that I use quite a bit. I did put a leader on it because I do have monofilament line on there. So this is a medium light rod. It gives you a 25% bonus to XP. This one also has a +1 to using the Bolognese rig ability skill. So when I'm using that one, I think I already have 3 points in Bolognese rig. So it's really a 4-point setup there. And those points just give you, if you look at it, it says technique of fishing with a Bolognese rig, the higher the technique, the bigger chances of catching a trophy. So that gives you a better chance of catching bigger fish. I personally have zero points in the bottom rod. Sorry, I was focusing on catching this fish. I didn't expect to actually get a fish on float. 1.428 kilo Ide on float for 1,000 XP. Not bad. What was I saying? I already forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? It doesn't really matter. Oh, since I was focusing on float fishing, I put all my points into things that improve float. The only thing that improves both float and other setups is using a telescopic reel, which gives you casting distance and accuracy. I did that because of Bolo, and I knew long term I'm going to be getting into match rods, which also will need that as well too. But gives you casting distance and accuracy bonuses when using a spinning rod. Luminous float is a free one. Casting power control is a free one, and leader is a free one as well. And then all of these different rigs give you better chance of bigger fish. And fishing with a sandwich bait is also a free one when you get there at 80%. And some of those, like I mentioned, are shared. So if you look at bottom rod fishing, using a spinning reel is maxed out. If I go look over at spin fishing as well, that's not spin fishing, Tucker. Go look at spin fishing using a spinning rig, it is maxed out, despite me having 0.4% in spin fishing, which is pretty much only, I think, the trophy fish or the tutorial fish. And if you watch the very first episode of the playlist, which is actually labeled episode 0, I struggled. So it used to be here on Russian Fishing 4, when you started a character, they'd send you over to Winding to do a tutorial fish. And everyone always said the very first fish is a guaranteed fish on spin fishing. And I think I fished for about 45 minutes getting no bites because of the weather. It was frustrating. So, great way to start off a YouTube career there, but it is what it is. So, that's kind of the setups that I have that I enjoyed. The other things I will say is you can go to the admin building at any lake and get a bamboo rod. I will always get at least one of those just so I have it. Getting the bamboo rod also gives you up to 100 worms. So if you're ever completely out of bait, you can go there. Now, granted, I've done so many diggings, I have 10,000 worms in my pocket. But that's a good thing. The other thing I recommend doing, and once an in-game day, so once an hour, you can do this. You can go to the admin building and get the old spinning reel rod. When you get the old spinning rod, you do get this reel as well too. This is a pretty decent reel. It's another 2 kilo reel. It's half worn out. It does make a lot of noise when you use it. So as you reel in, you'll hear it go click, 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 click. And it's very, very expensive to repair, but it's a pretty decent reel to have, especially early on. So I like to go grab that as well too. Looks like that Telestick guide was actually a weekly record. Granted, it is Monday evening, so I'm not entirely surprised there. But that's kind of the setup I have on this character. If there are questions, feel free to ask. Um, the future of this character is getting into match rigs. The kind of the best match rigs unlock at level 20 at level 26. So we've got a little ways to go for that. We also need a lot of silver. So I think I need 2 HSVs, which are about 2,500 silver each. So there's 5,000 silver. And then I think each of the rods as well is a couple thousand silver. So I think I need about 10,000 silver to get match rods. And match rods are very similar to just a big bolo rod, except you use them more like a bottom rod. So you'll cast it out, you'll still have the float, but you tend to let it sink and go carp fishing with them. But got a ways to go before those will unlock. Like I said, you got to be level 26 to get them. And they are the Rebellion match rods. No, sorry, the Silverfish Falcon match rods. They unlock at 26 and they are 4,000 silver a piece. So we got a ways to go, unfortunately. But we'll get there in time. Ooh, I see you, fish. Not yet. Now. Oh, missed it. A lot of the baits I bought are kind of all over the place. Red worms, worms, night crawlers, bark beetle larva. All the baits I have, you can just buy in the all of these baits you can buy in the store. Cornmeal porridge, cottage cheese dough, egg dough, garlic dough, honey dough, oatmeal porridge, pea porridge, pearl barley, semolina, sweet dough, wheat seeds, wet bread. These are all things that you make through grinding up your ground bait or your bait harvesting. Corn and peas you buy, cheese you buy and cut up, potatoes you buy and cut up. Algae you can buy as gold bait, or you can harvest it with the scoop here. Just like that. Got a little bit lucky. And then what else is there? What else did I have? Pieces of fish. You can cut up 500-gram or larger fish, and you have a chance of getting one piece of fish. And then boilies are your kind of carp, tend to be for your carp. All of these feather floats I've gotten because I've gotten one of the old bamboo poles. So that shows you I've gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bamboo poles. You get the set of weights when you buy things, leaders. These are your feeders. Ground bait we've shown a couple different times. Tools, I do have the bait grinder to grind up boilies to make my own bait, but I need to level up ground bait. That actually is probably the next thing I need to do on this character is level up ground bait a little bit. There's a fillet knife you use for cutting up fish, scoop for bloodworms, shovel. I recommend buying all of these fairly early on as well too, because you can make tea, which gives you food and comfort. So drink tea. I also like to have carrots around as well and eat those. The dog's found something that he's chewing on, and I'm worried. Oh, I know what it is. It's his. It's a toy. I'm okay with that. I was worried he was eating something he shouldn't be. Come on, fish. Did not expect it to be this slow. Knew it was going to be slow. That's part of why I did this today was to go over the rigs that I have. But it was a great question, so I figured I'd go over both of those. And then I think I'm actually up to a cursed number of subs. I think I'm at 311 subs. So thank you all. We're up 30 in the past week, month. Past week's actually been pretty good as well too. So I appreciate all of that. But if there are any questions or anything like that on my setups, please feel free to let me know, and I'll do my best to explain it. There was a great comment over on the spin video yesterday as well too about leaders from someone who actually does real fishing over in Europe. So please feel free to go look at that as well too. But kind of the braided monofilament leaders on bottom rods, especially for carp, makes sense because they kind of behave more naturally for bait on the bottom of a water body. And I've been talking a lot today, so my voice is not wanting to stay with me. Combined with it just being so hot today. We get into the 90s a lot. We're not usually 90 and high humidity like we are. And I'm in kind of the Midwest area, so we're going to be even hotter tomorrow, and we're under excessive heat warning nonstop till Thursday. And then looking like it's going to get a little bit better after that. Hopefully, maybe. Yeah. Heat indices today was 110 to 120. Tomorrow, 110 to 120. Wednesday, 110 to 115. Thursday, 105 to 110 heat index. And tomorrow's supposed to be 99 real temperature. Wednesday, 100. Thursday, 101. Not fun. Come on, fish. I'm getting frustrated. Oh, great. Now there's a tropical storm that may hit Texas. And a lot of times when it hits Texas, it curves and comes up my way. We'll see. Oh, wow. Just looked at the 10-day forecast, and this Sunday is supposed to be 78 for a high with rain. That'll be welcome. Come on, fishy fish. I don't think the weather's helping me here with it being cloudy. But I had to try it. I'm still short the Ide and the Perch. Did I ever get Kermit here or not? I can't remember. I think I thought I did, and then I came back and I have yet to catch Kermit, so I've got the 3 of them. But still, I've got 14 different trophies as a level 24. That's not bad at all. And my overall trophy count is very respectable. I got it. I thought I jumped the gun a little bit there. Decent crucian, 709 gram crucian. And I don't know why both my phones just made noise. Nothing I need to care about by the looks of it. I am one of those that will carry around a work phone and then a personal phone as well too. Sorry, I just saw one of my notifications, and evidently the last subscriber I got was God. So thank you, God. Not what I expected to see. Just looking at my phone caught me off guard. Did God get me away from 700 or 311, or was God 311? Nope, God was 311. More bloodworms. Come on, fish. Sorry about the jerking around there. I was trying to stretch my knee out. It's not exactly comfortable with the heat. Yeah, 6 years ago today was also the big solar eclipse. Got a picture of my previous dog sitting in the shade, and then all of a sudden it's completely dark outside, and he's wondering what the hell's going on. So, confused why the shade was completely gone. Sitting next to my previous neighbor's boat, underneath the boat, enjoying the shade, and then the shade just completely disappeared. It was a full solar eclipse for it's pretty good. I think it was about 90 seconds if I remember correctly. Come on, fish. Can't tell if that's waves or if that's a fish nibbling on the bottom. I think it's just the waves and the wind. Might as well do another dig. More mayfly larvas. Dog just came running in here and I thought he needed something. He may. We'll see. Trying to get him to jump up on the couch and lay down. There we go. Good boy. Got done chewing on his toy. Sometimes a lot of times I'll let him outside right around now because I just got done feeding him. I was wondering if he was about to bark. and tell me he needed to go out between dinner and drinking a lot of water from the heat with the dog walk earlier. And his breed is used to the heat, so he wanted to keep going on today's evening walk, and I wanted to go home. But his breed was made to hunt boars in the southeast United States in the bayous down in Louisiana. He's used to the heat. I grew up in Texas, so I kind of am too, but I've been out of Texas for really 18 years. I've been up here in the Midwest. And even before that, I went to school in Arizona, so I didn't have the humidity either. So 22 years not dealing with the humidity and the heat as much. Come on, fish. Give me a fish. And I just thought up the episode title. Oh, sometimes I get dumb. Today's episode is going to be a good yet dumb name. Unless I start catching a whole bunch of fish. Which at this point, I don't think I'm going to be catching a whole bunch of fish. Come on, fish. Come on, fishy fish. Come on, fish. Oh, come on. Starting to lose interest here. I'm also not seeing a lot of fish in chat, so I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Not the best day. I'd rather have caught a lot of fish, but there weren't a lot of hides out there. It was worth a try. We did get 6 fish. All of them a marker, I think. Wrong button. Yep, all 6 markers. And we did get a weekly record. Who knows if it'll actually stay up or not. I do think the cloud cover hurt me, but it is what it is. So those who may not know, I know I mentioned upgrading reels. If you've never done that before, if you go over to the workshop, I need to take the reel off. I would. You can choose an analog for things, ball bearings, grease. If I take the reel off the bottom rod, if I flip this to replace and choose an analog for 18 silver, basically, you can get a better uh, friction brake. So it actually starts off at 3.8 stock. You can go to 4.2. Not really worth it when you can go to 5.4 for just a little bit more. And that'll take a day of in-game time. So if I start replacing this, it will take a full day away of not having this reel of in-game time. You have to stay logged in, and for everything that you add, it adds more time. But it is what it is there. So that's what I'm talking about when I say you can upgrade the friction brake. Not every reel you can do that on, and different stores will have different things in stock. You don't always have to use gold. So in my mind, the way I look at it, I know I kind of mentioned on the other topic about the sizing of your reels and rods. Your mechanism is a hidden weight. You don't see that there is a number here. You do see friction brake. If you hover over it, it gives you a max drag of 5.4 kilos. If I hover over the mechanism, it just gives you gear ratio and wear. So there is a link in or I don't actually have a link in my description. There's a link to rf4.fish, which has a link to it, but Kilted Jock has a great list of reels and their hidden mech weights. But the way I look at it here is if I can put a 6.5 kilo friction brake on here, my mechanism is at least 6.5 kilos. So just something to think about there. I will always make my rod the highest, so especially anything that has a reel on it, I will make my rod the highest. So this is a 6 kilo load capacity. My reel I want to be my second highest. So that's 5.4. And then in this case, then I want my line to be below the max friction brake of my reel. Otherwise, you can't turn your friction brake all the way up. So I went with 5. I think that was the best I could find at the time here. And then if you use a leader, typically you want that. And this is actually a bad example. But typically you want your leader to be the lowest. Excuse me. I've got the hiccups right now. I took a big drink of tea. Typically you want your leader to be the lowest load capacity. So if something breaks, your leader breaks and all you lose is your hook and your bait and the leader itself. You don't lose any of your line. That's kind of the way I like to set things up. You will see me at times, especially as you get higher level, where my line will be stronger than my friction brake by far. But that's because if you look at an HSV, it's got I think it's a 13 or a 15 kilo friction brake. It has a 31 kilo mechanism. So you can overload it to a degree, but you still want your line to be lower than your mechanism weight because you can break your mechanism, and that means the reel is dead. You have to cut your line. You lose everything that's on it. Not really worth it. And then if you have a line that is bigger than the load capacity of your rod, you can break your rod completely. I've snapped a few of the bamboo rods just having fun doing that. So just keep that in mind that you want to make sure you keep things sized appropriately. I will see some folks using huge line on these starter reels, and I just would not recommend it there. So I just will grab my free food for while I'm here. We do have 6 fish. I'm going to say we're between 15 and 20 silver. 27.77, not bad. Let's take a quick look at the cafe. Nothing there. 27 silver in 40 minutes, not the best, but could have been a lot worse. So hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all learned something today with my setups. And again, if there are questions, feel free to ask. But we'll see you over on the spin character tomorrow. Bye bye now.